Minister Modi is in China after a gap of over 7 years. The Prime Minister is in China to attend the annual SCO summit, which will take place today and tomorrow. The Prime Minister is also scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping today. This is a crucial meeting as the US tariffs have impacted almost all leading economies. Remember, this visit is significant also because this is Prime Minister Modi's first visit since the Galwan clashes. Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping are expected to take stock of the India-China economic ties and deliberate on steps to further normalize relations. My colleague Priyanka Dio joins us from Chicago for more details. Priyanka, now this of course comes at a time when US has imposed tariffs on leading economies. Both India and China have come under that. This meeting with the Prime Minister Modi as well as Xi Jinping, do you have any details on whether the tariffs will feature in the talks at all?
Of course, it's going to feature. Now, this meeting is significant not just because he's come here in over 7 years. This is his first visit to China, but this is also a diplomatic engagement as Trump has literally imposed sweeping tariffs totaling 50% just a day or two ago on Indian goods in response to India's continued purchase of Russian oil. Now, as Modi seeks to ease bilateral tensions here with China with steps like resuming pilgrimages as well as hiking visa facilitation, he also simultaneously wants to ensure India's strategic autonomy, emphasizing trade, connectivity, as well as sovereignty, especially with China and the other member countries. However, as you said, underlying issues at the border, especially after Galvan, with China still persists, making any sort of realignment there not very likely. But it is really strategic that Modi has gone to China to meet President Xi because Donald Trump is going to definitely respond to this. So what we can expect is probably a theatrical mixed reaction here. Donald Trump, I wouldn't put it past him to denounce the rapport between the two leaders as a betrayal of US interests. He'll probably use his Truth Social platform to amplify rhetoric and emphasize his America First trade posture. He may also accuse PM Modi of undermining US pressure strategy while simultaneously painting himself as a strong leader. But India's pivot here may contradict Trump's own diplomatic ambitions. And here's why. In short, PM Modi, by going to China, has played a checkmate card. He's playing a multipolar card over here. It's a power play by him because Trump cannot do without China and India. And let's also not forget that Russia is also a member country of the SCO. So Modi is showing that India is most definitely a superpower country in a world that demands respect. He's balancing power as well as hedging bets. He's not just playing defense here. While Trump, ever theatrical as he normally is, will likely respond with bluster, labeling India as unfair or doubling down on tariffs in a bid to maintain leverage. But for India, this recalibration is very strategic because it diversifies India's diplomatic bets, it reduces any overdependence on any single power bloc, and it also strengthens India's leverage on the world stage, all while asserting India's role as a truly autonomous global power.
Right, Priyanka, thank you for joining us and bringing us those details. These visuals that we're getting in at the moment are of President Putin landing in China. Remember, President Putin is also going to be attending the SCO meeting, also going to be holding a bilateral with Prime Minister Modi as well as other leaders. My colleague Aditya Raj Kaul joins us from Tianjin, in fact, reporting. Aditya, now we're getting in details of Putin landing in China. Take us to the latest ahead of the SCO summit and ahead of the bilaterals that are going to take place today.
Well, thank you very much and good morning to the viewers of NDTV globally who are catching up with the SCO summit and with Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in attendance. In a few hours from now, officially the SCO meeting would be beginning. And of course, we'll have the leader's declaration after the family photo. Those are the protocols to be followed. But on the sidelines of the SCO, the big meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping will be taking place in a couple of hours from now. Although there are no big takeaways or big announcements that are likely to happen, but it's just the beginning of resetting of the ties. That's what government sources are pegging this as. They're saying that people-to-people contact will have much more prominence rather than big strategic decisions. Already you know that Wang Yi was in New Delhi recently to meet NSA Ajit Doval, and 5 prominent points were discussed, including people-to-people contact and direct flight between Beijing and New Delhi. And of course, setting up a working group and an expert committee on the boundary question. But the latest developments now coming in here from Tianjin in China, that Russian President Vladimir Putin has just landed here to attend the SCO meeting. Kremlin has suggested that this is a rare occurrence that for 4 days, Putin would be in attendance at the SCO and thereafter, bilaterally meet Xi Jinping and attend, some of the ceremonies out here and celebrations in China. This comes at a time when Trump has taken a very strong and a hard line against India. A lot of bullying also being witnessed by the White House against New Delhi on the tariff question, 50% tariffs being slapped against New Delhi. And that has certainly positioned India much closer to China and Russia, so much so that there has been a talk of a Russia-India-China RIC alliance. Will that be a reality? Will that really happen in the weeks and months ahead? Only time will tell. But right now here at the SCO, the big talking point is the SCO Leaders Summit that will be beginning in a couple of hours from now. There is the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and his Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar in attendance as well. He's come for the huge, big delegation. Let's remember that terrorism will get prominence. India's top priority is counterterrorism, and India would expect the SCO Summit to condemn terrorism without any kind of a differentiation between good terror and bad terror, and also condemn cross-border terrorism, because India has been a victim of terrorism for a very long time, emanating from the Pakistani soil. The biggest of which is from Pakistan and the Pahalgam terror attack that recently happened in April, in which at least 26 innocents died. And of course, the terrorists who were participating in that carnage were holding Chinese equipment like the Ultraset app and the Alpine app. So these are some of the things that would be highlighted by India at the SCO meeting. And it's likely that the leaders' declaration could happen, the joint declaration could happen later in the day. And we will certainly keep the NDTV viewers updated on the latest developments from here. But the big story from here today is the big handshake between the tiger and the dragon. But what kind of a tango will that be will only be revealed perhaps when the meeting ends in a couple of hours.
Right, Aditya, and as far as border talks are concerned, that's another significant portion of both Xi Jinping and Modi's bilateral that will take place, because we've seen that border security will feature perhaps in the SCO summit as well. And this is the first time that Modi has visited China after the Galwan clash. So border talks could also be a significant part of their bilateral.
See, India abides by mutual respect, and that's been, the essence of the Panchsheel agreement between India and China. And that is what was reiterated when Wang Yi and Ajit Doval met recently in New Delhi. So yes, when the boundary question is being talked about, they have met close to 24 times already. We've had military-level dialogue at Eastern Ladakh, at the Moldo sector there, and Chushul. But the real question really is that, is China willing to walk the talk? Because in the last decade or so, there have been various, attempts by China of transgression, of aggression, of, creating hutments in territories which are not theirs, also renaming places in Indian territory, especially in Arunachal Pradesh. So the question really is that China needs to abide by the border, and there needs to be some positive momentum being created so that trust deficit that has been there over the last 5 to 7 years is reduced drastically. Of course, you mentioned the Galwan attack, and that was one of the pillars, one of the major instances that brought in a paradigm shift in the India-China ties. We had a situation where, China engaged in such activities that led to the killing of 20 Indian soldiers and countless lives on the Chinese PLA side as well that have never been admitted. The another factor, apart from the border ties, is terrorism that will get much more prominence. And because of Trump's tariffs being slapped, not just against India, but many countries across the globe, tariffs, economic cooperation, and greater connectivity would be also a major discussion point, not just at the India-China bilateral, but overall at the SCO meeting, where the SCO countries will try to see, how they can cooperate further for economic reforms and better connectivity through this entire region, especially in Central Asia. And apart from that, we will also witness several of these bilaterals taking place on the sidelines. As I said, Shehbaz Sharif and Ishaq Dar have reached already, and a lot of hectic activity to be witnessed over the next 24 to 30 hours.
Thank you, Aditya, for joining us and bringing us those details. Continue tracking the story for us as it develops. Let me bring in my colleague Priyanka still with us. Priyanka, now talking about the diplomacy that comes with Prime Minister Modi visiting China, right? We're seeing that the US has become aggressive, not just with tariffs, but otherwise as well towards China under Trump. And the fact that India has to now play a balancing act in terms of how it views China, but at the same time remaining firm on its stance over border security and other issues.
I think every country has to play a balancing act with China, right? They really have to watch, and there's a lot of mistrust with China across the board. But let's not forget that India has significantly diversified under PM Modi. It's actively pursued multipolar issue-based alliance strategies as well, and not just bloc-based alignment. So some key moves, for example, Russia, right? Continued energy and defense ties, which are making headlines every day thanks to President Donald Trump. And this is despite Western pressure post-Ukraine. India also has diversified with the Middle East. There's stronger ties with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, and with Israel, not just for oil, but also for investment, for infrastructure, as well as strategic corridors. India has also diversified with Africa as well as the global south. Modi's outreach has revitalized South-South cooperation with Europe as well by pushing bilateral trade and green partnerships with Germany, with France, and the EU in particular. With East Asia, with Japan, Vietnam, in terms of strategic and economic cooperation. And let's not forget G20, right? BRICS as well. India's positioning itself as a bridge builder and not a follower here. So I do think that India cannot completely break away with the US, but we're also showing the US over here that, look, we're a country on our own. India is a country on its own, and we're not beholden to the United States of America. We want a fair deal, not tariffs that equal 50%, making it impossible and causing disruption.
Right, Priyanka, and there are several points of contentions when it comes to India and China. It's not a relation without tumultuons, especially China and Pakistan relations. And when it comes to terrorism, India has been having a very firm stance on this. And that, of course, will be reflected in the SCO summit as well. We can expect not just that, but like I was mentioning, border issues also playing a key role in the tensions between India and China. And as far as both countries are concerned, like you said, there is a trust deficit, but there's also from the side of China contentions when it comes to Tibet and India's support for it as well. So these are issues that may or may not feature directly in the talks between Xi Jinping and Modi, because they will be trying to maintain a diplomatic relation. But again, these are key issues that could come in between when they're talking at the SCO summit as well, Priyanka.
Yes, and let's not forget the other member countries that are attending, right? Belarus, China, as Aditya had said before, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, who has joined in 2017, Russia, who is a founding member of the SCO, Tajikistan, as well as Uzbekistan. So it is going to be diplomatic. It is an organization summit. In terms of moving any policy forward, I don't think it's going to happen at this summit, but certainly the issues that you and I both mentioned are going to be discussed, and at least it's a thaw in diplomatic relations. So it does play an important step in moving relations with China forward.
Talk a little bit about the Russia and Ukraine conflict. Now, Prime Minister Modi is going to be holding a bilateral with Putin as well. Right before that, he held a phone call with Zelensky and assured him that there will be a resolution to the Ukraine conflict. That's at least what India will try to do. And earlier, we had seen that Putin had come out and expressed that he was willing to ensure that there is peace in Ukraine and that the conflict comes to an end. So this is also something that we've seen the US has been quite involved with. After Trump's meeting with Putin as well. Do you expect that there will be significant developments on that front?
I think so. Trump has met both Putin as well as Zelensky, both in the United States of America. And this is just as of a week or two ago. He met Putin in Anchorage. He met Zelensky in the White House. I think that talks were very warm. They were very friendly. It wasn't conflictful. It wasn't aggressive. But Trump did indicate that something has to happen. The war has to end. Now, in terms of tariffs with India, Modi has said that we're going to continue importing Russian oil, right? We don't really care what Trump has to say. You can impose tariffs on us. We don't really care. Let's not forget that India and the US also have a very strong technology and defense relationship. They also have a very strong existing trade relationship, which is stronger than China right now. Geopolitically, I think Trump has more trust in Modi than he does over Xi. So India is incredibly important in the Asia-Pacific region for Donald Trump. And also, India does have diaspora influence. Our economy is very, very strong as compared to China's economy, which is a dying manufacturing economy. So we do need the US. The US does need us. But this is, as I said before, a power play by Modi, that by meeting President Xi and by meeting Putin at the same organization summit, it's almost like I was going to say a bad word, but I can't say that on national TV. But it's almost like showing the finger to Donald Trump right here. Shows that we do need the US. We do have partnerships with them. And the US needs India as well. But that doesn't mean facing bullying, accepting bullying. India is not beholden to the US. That's what Modi is really trying to show in terms of India-US relationships by attending this summit.